Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. The information here is strictly for educational purposes only and is not a recommendation to trade. You are solely responsible for your own trading actions. No members of DSC Capital were harmed in the making of this video. Hello, everybody. Lord Sean Connery here, along with Mohammed, and this is Nostradamus, the coverage of the crude oil futures. And we're going to go on over our weekly video to check out what possible scenarios that we have that might or might not be playing out this week.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, we're gonna be going over the scenarios. Last week, pretty much, a key area that me and Rob talked about last week was 5850, which was on the X contract. We now rolled over to F contract, but 5850 was finally tested, and the market did have a decent reaction away. However, we are still printing. Oh, we still have these lower highs that we need to sort of pay attention to. Now, the fact that we did test 5850 and the market had a decent reaction away, something that I'm going to be paying attention to is one, these lower highs, they're still in play until it isn't. So, one way that it won't be in play is if the market would, let me just change this color. So, if the market does have a pullback, and this is one variation of the way I think it may play out, the market has a pullback lower, we're able to create the first higher low against the prior weekly low. If that is the case, then I would be open for the market to pretty much rotate higher up to the MC point of control, and that is around 60, I believe it's around 6340s or 6240s. But overall, I would be watching for this swing high to break, and then we start coming back into this big balance area. That's one way I see this playing out. That's like one variation. The second variation of this long would be we open, we take out the high. So this high is pretty much taken out. And then it's no longer printing lower highs. And then we would simply just watch for a pullback for the same scenario. I prefer I prefer the pullback with the higher low against the prior weekly low. I think that would give you sort of the best risk to reward trade, to catch it towards a turning point and then go for higher. That's my primary scenario. Uh, do you do you have anything you want to say on this scenario, Rob?
Yeah, I like your the first variation about the deeper pullback because if we're just coming off and initially going on up, we don't really know if technically the low is in, and um, it's nice to see if we can get some sort of like pullback just to kind of gauge interest against those previous lows and see where buyers step in and hold their line, hold the ground. And if they do hold their ground against last week's low, especially the amount of powder that we built on Wednesday and Thursday, like Wednesday was a massive trend day down and built a humongous powder keg of volume at that 5850. And then Thursday actually, like the Wednesday night and the Thursday morning, that actually undercut that area and came right back above it, which was interesting. The Thursday night and the Friday morning was short covering, which was news driven, which got us back up to those 60s, the 60 evens, which was kind of interesting to see happen. I remember that you were online with me. You took a position and then it just ran, and you were wondering what the hell is going on. I said, "This is short covering. This is these are people running for their fucking lives because they're offsides on a position." It's very interesting, good stuff to see. But yeah, like with those 2 days, the Wednesday and Thursday, that amount of volume traded down at those lows, it's not like it should give that up. So I would love to see, Friday opened up in a gap we never filled. It would be nice to see how we pull back and kind of recheck that area. So the full session is now neutral, but the RTH is technically time framing up because it has the two overall higher lows, of course, a gap in between them. So there's a little discrepancy between the two, but yeah, I do like that. Now, just because we prefer it doesn't mean it necessarily has to happen. But again, we'll see.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's all I have to say for that very first scenario.
yeah. And what would be if we do see the pullback lower is if we can just fill in the bottom RTH gap. So if it like fills that
Yeah.
in, it's sort of in line with this vPOC, and we can see that value is starting to move higher, which is
Mhm.
nice to see. So overall, this would be like a pretty nice area for the market to hold against
Yeah.
and then head higher. And then, so yeah, so, and then that's the primary scenario. The secondary scenario is simply you're playing these lower highs until it does not work. So we obviously see that these lower highs every time we know we're attempting higher, we're getting a lower high, you're going for a lower low. If that is the case, then how I would expect that to play out, it attempts higher, it just doesn't crack it. We don't see a higher low against the prior weekly low, and then we move lower back within this 3-day balance, and there is a HVN around here. Um, it's around the 57, 57 12s, I believe, but that would be the
Yeah.
secondary scenario. Do I think the secondary scenario plays out? Well, that's why it's secondary. I really think the long plays out. That's my primary, but if really this is just like you're playing the short until it doesn't work. So that's sort of what I'm thinking for the downside.
Yeah. One thing about that. So that it was Wednesday that we took a massive shit, down, headed down. Tuesday built a pretty decent profile, which has a lot of trap traders, a lot of two-way action, another powder keg, as you can say. Um, on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, that was like a 3-day balance. And then that Tuesday pretty much played out against that in terms of just unable to trade and hold that area. So there was some exchange between buyers and sellers in terms of they were migrating value up there, but they just couldn't hold it. And I believe on that Wednesday morning, that we got some news about there's a supply and demand report, the outlook for the rest of 2025 and 2026, what oil looked like in terms of pricing, and that really shot the market down. So just the fact that that was news based, and then we also got some other news that led to that Friday short covering. It'd be very interesting to see that area be tested, and if that area cannot get above on the F contract, the high is 61.18. Um, yeah, if that area meets some resistance and buyers are unable to get anywhere, and we start to head on down, the first thing I probably expect is to chop back at the 60s, um, and then we start to head lower. The Yeah, that is a pretty fair secondary scenario. Did you have a tertiary scenario? A scenario that doesn't involve getting okay. So one of the other scenarios that I was thinking is we actually head higher and we test those two intermediate highs that were formed, not the overall. On F contract, I have the overall, the mega high that you have at 61.84, but there's some other there's some other intermediate highs where we come in and we test the previous week high, which on the F contract is 61. The full session is at 61.60. The RTH is at 61.44. So we come in and we just come in and test those highs, and more of like a look above and fail. So we make new highs against the old week. And if we take a look above and fail, we come back and we run right through the VPOC. And then we also come in and we don't make new lows against last week, or maybe we do check the lows, whether we actually break them, but we also do not we either break them or don't. But that is a tertiary scenario that I was thinking of is just one big spin cycle of balance. We come up, check the high, just say fuck it, we can't do anything, and then we go right all the way back down, check the lows, and then just come in the balance. That could be very interesting. We do have rollover coming in and some options expiry, so we could see a movement on options expiration day in one direction, and then the exact opposite movement after. It's very possible, but that could be the signs of hey, it's another way of saying, all right, the this little downtrend is going to be over just by kind of shaking the dog turds out and making a big wider balance. Now, the only thing is that's really going to go ahead and make it harder to kind of gauge the direction for the week after. But again, it's on the table. You always have to worry about these situations where we're just going to go ahead and test the extremes of balance and just go nowhere. Last week, the Sunday PM open and then the Friday PM close, they were within, I think, 10 cents of each other. So, like if you bought an oil contract or sold an oil contract and held through all the shenanigans all throughout the week, it closed very close to what the open was. So that's a lot of, I guess you could say that's a lot of weekly indecision. And that could also be a lot of, news pricing in itself that could have thrown off that auction naturally. But if that's the case, maybe we get another version of that this week that we may not, head to build value higher or build value lower, that we may just be stuck in this area even longer. So yeah.
Interesting, like, scenario if it does play out. Pretty much just after testing, I guess, 58.50s on the X contract, then it starts to sort of just digest what it wants to do next, whether it wants to head lower or whether it does indeed want to head higher, upper, like towards that upper vPOC. So that's a
Yeah.
pretty interesting scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a great way to frustrate some people. Break last week's high and get people ready. Like, oh shit, we're gonna go back up to 63 or something, and then fuck them, and then break the lows and scare the shit out of people, and get the sellers all nice and excited.
Definitely.
My friend and I were talking. He was mentioning, hey, I wonder how all those 58.50 put buyers are doing. That they're in the money. That was Wednesday and into Wednesday night and the Thursday morning, and then you see that happen, and then stuff starts moving away. Like, yeah, those puts came into the money, and then all of a sudden they're not in a blink of an eye. Well, not a blink of an eye, but over through an overnight session. So yeah, it could be very interesting to see what we're gonna have.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all I had to cover. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, or we're good to just wrap up the video over here.
I think we're pretty much good to wrap up. I don't think there's going to be anything to do in like any of the ETH sessions. I'm mainly interested in the RTH, uh, and also with the rollover, I probably want to be very careful. Um, having any sort of I do want to see the market set up and provide the um, I guess you could say provide the evidence necessary in order to get like a weekly position, because
Yeah.
I know that options expiry is going to be a little tricky, and last thing I want to do is hold through over that mess, but it is what it is. So yeah, we'll see what happens this week.
Sounds good. So take care, everybody. We'll see you in next week's video. And if you guys enjoyed this weekly review or weekly scenarios, drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you aren't. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Oh yes, yes. If you do like the video, make sure to like and subscribe and drop a comment
Yeah.
or
Y-
talk some shit in the comment. We don't care.
I, I
Actually, we do
actually
care, but
I actually
yeah.
noticed I noticed from last week's video that only 60%, actually 60% of the people who watch the video are not subscribed. So if you're part of the 60%, subscribe.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
All good.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Take care.